Oshio, Ayoda-san. Welcome to the Red Road East. I am your host, Feerce Truth-Seeker. Alright, so we're going to get right into it, and we're going to stick with the time frame this time, and we're going to pick up from where we left off at, okay? And this is Moors and Indians, friends or enemies, okay? So, we're going to attack a few points here today, all right? In no particular order, but we're going to try to get to all of the points. Whatever we don't have time to attack today, we'll pick up and attack in the next following video. Okay, so Moors and Indians are not enemies. Okay, that's what we're going to prove, that they're not enemies. Concerns and misconceptions. Okay, and those misconceptions are, and concerns are, there are no mound building Moors that exist in America, and we did not exist before the Spanish brought us. That is false. Okay, and that was a comment left by Carlton Walker. And the other point is the mound builders are all dead. That is false. That is another comment by Carlton Walker. Another one is the Moors have no treaties that predate the U.S. We came afterwards. That is false. And we're going to debunk that today. Okay. Moors are enemies of the Aborigines. That is false. Okay. There's a whole lot of people who call themselves American Aborigines today who believe that. And we're going to debunk that today. Okay. We are Indians, not Moors. That is false. Okay, we're going to debunk that today. Okay, there were no Indian tribes called Moors. That is false. A whole lot of the Aborigines and even a lot of the Afrocentrics believe that today. Okay, and we're going to kick some Afrocentric ass today. Excuse my Cherokee. Someone say excuse my French. I'm going to say excuse my Chalagi. All right. There was never a Moorish empire. Okay, that is false, and we actually debunked that in the last video. Okay, and this one is not so much a misconception as much as a concern. And you know, I know there was one comment from previously, but I know there's more than one individual who has this concern. He said, how does Feerce Truth-Seeker go from being an Indian to a Moor? Okay, and I'm going to show you that there is no such thing as going from an Indian to a Moor. I'm going to prove that today. All right, so let's get right into it. Let's see where we left off at. Let's see here. Give me a second. Okay, so looking at the map. Okay, and the Feerce Truth-Seeker is not in the screen today. Feerce Truth-Seeker did not get a chance to shave and all that good stuff, you know. So I just got my picture up here for you. All right. Next video, Feerce Truth-Seeker will be in your face. Anyway, we looked at the map, and we're going to continue to look at this map. okay, which comes from my book. Actually, this is not the complete map. This is just this is the rough draft map. This is not the one that's in the book. Okay, when you purchase the book, you'll see the complete map. Okay, so where we left off at, we were looking at the fact that on both sides of the Atlantic, you have the same tribes and the same place names. Okay, because you got to remember, this was an empire. Okay, and we were back and forth, coming back and forth all the time. All right, accessing these trade winds. Okay, which is another subject for another time. All right, because people talk about the trade winds coming from Africa into the Americas, okay, and you see, how close the most easterly tip of South America is to the most westerly tip of Africa. It's, I think, like 4 times closer than it is from like the east coast of the United States to the west coast of the United States. Okay, so it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that we would be back and forth. But people only talk about the trade winds going this way, going into South America, into the Caribbean. But later on, you're going to see that the trade winds going from the west to the east is much more easy, and the waters are much more calm and favorable in this direction. Okay, and the experts on the trade winds talk about how if people traveled transatlantically in ancient times, then the first wave of those migrations would have come from the west to the east. Okay, and we're gonna get into that a little bit later. Okay, so for right now, let us continue reading on. So we talked about the Atlas Mountains. Okay, so we said that on the shore of Africa, you have the Atlas Mountains on the shore of Africa, and a town called Atlan on the shore of America. The Atlantes living in the northwest coast of Africa. The Aztec people from Aztlan in Central America. An ocean in between the two called the Atlantic Ocean. Okay. And Atlas, a deity called Atlas, who had the weight of the world on his shoulders. Okay. And an immemorial tradition of an island of Atlantis. And of course, we know that here in America, the mainland was the main land of Atlantis. This was Atlantis proper. What's out in the Atlantic Ocean was the island of Atlantis, but this was the mainland, okay, of Atlantis, where we are. Okay? So he says, can all of these things be the result of accident? And this is, again, coming from my Olmec Renaissance, um, periodical. All right. On page 173, Donnelly continues, how can we, without Atlantis, explain the presence of the Basques in Europe who have no lingual affinities with any other race on the continent of Europe, but whose language is similar to the languages of America? In the book New Light from the Great Pyramid, ooh, and this book right here, woo! This book right here rocks. I got that book right on the shelf. Okay. New Light from the Great Pyramid by Albert R. Parsons. Page 179 reads, Meropes was a king of the island of Kos who married Selene, one of the Oceanides. He was changed into an eagle and placed among the constellations. This connects the name of Meropes with the land overshadowed by eagles. Okay, overshadowed by eagles. Keep that in mind, that eagle. The eagles. The name Meru was carried to Africa in many forms as Mero, Merawe, El Merawoy, Amaru, etc. The affinity of locating all the wonders associated with Meroe at any point in Africa has naturally been great. The whole extent of the African city of Meroe amounts to 4,000 feet with a surrounding plain allowing room for a much larger city. Yet Meroe is said to have contained 250,000 soldiers and 400,000 artificers. It is known of the religion of the ancient Meroe in Africa that the only gods worshipped were Zeus and Dionysius, both, as we have seen, belonging to Capricornus and Eagle Land, or America. In the sanctuary stood a ship, doubtless commemorating the lost America, shadowed with wings and sending ambassadors in ships, as Isaiah says. Hold on, I gotta make this font a little bigger because I'm so struggling with trying to see this. Ooh, that's so much better. So much better! Oh my goodness. Woo! That is so much better. All right, that was killing my eyes. All right, so where were we? Okay, I think we were right here. Yeah, Isaiah says. Parsons continues, then again, Hamilton alludes to a singular representation in which the figures represent the communion of religious rites from Ethiopia. Aith equals fire, Apis equals serpent. Hence again, the land of the serpent mounds, America, America, in Egypt. Thus, both the Hindu Mount Meru and the African Mount Meroe distinctly and unequivocally to the destroyed Miraz, or America, America, for the African Meru, America. For the African Meru lacks the world-commanding mountain, the overshadowing astronomical Garuda eagles, wings, the waters encircling the whole earth, etc., all of which are inseparable from the Hindu Mount Meru. Similarly, the Jewish figure of the great templum or celestial vault, i.e. Solomon's temple, had to be built upon a mount to fulfill that which was everywhere written of Mount Meru. And for that, Mount Meru could be but one name, Mount Moriah. Both geology and ancient tradition assign the highest mountains of the globe prior to the last great convulsion of nature to this continent. The Indian legends fix upon the White Mountains as the place where deity descend upon the American Mount Meru. A deluge sweeping down from his feet, and the mountains melting away with fervent heat. The late anthropologist Augustus Leplongeon did extensive research in Mexico and lived among the Mayans. He was frowned upon and ridiculed by all of his peers. However, none of them would debate him. He based his conclusions on primary research while living among the Mayans and speaking their language. He referred to his peers as armchair anthropologists who based their findings on what they read and not what they discovered doing field work. Okay? Le Plongeon also said that these anthropologists are guilty of many archaeological cover-ups and are sworn to secrecy about information that contradicts conventional wisdom. Le Plongeon, in his Maya Atlantis, Queen Mu and the Egyptian Sphinx, page 3, says, like the English of today, the Mayans sent colonists all over the earth. These carried with them the language, the traditions, the architecture, the astronomy, the cosmology, and other sciences, in a word, the civilization of their mother country. Is this civilization that furnishes us with the means of ascertaining the role played by them in the universal history of the world? We find vestiges of it and of their language in all historical nations of antiquity in Asia, Africa, and Europe. They are still frequent in the countries where they flourished. It is easy to let me move this over. It is easy to follow their tracks across the Pacific to India by the imprints of their hands dipped in a red liquid and pressed against the walls of temples, caves, and other places looked upon as sacred, to implore the benison of the gods also by their name, Maya, given to the banana tree, symbol of their country, whose broad leaf is yet a token of hospitality among natives of the islands. Then, along the shores of the Indian Ocean and those of the Persian Gulf to the mouth of the Euphrates, up that river to Babylon, the renowned city of the sun, thence across the Syrian desert to the valley of the Nile, where they finally settled and gave the name of their mother country to a district of Nubia, calling it Mayu or Mayu. Mayu or Mayu. Okay? After becoming firmly established in Egypt, they sent colonists to Syria. These reached as far north as Mount Taurus, founding on their way settlements along the coast of the Mediterranean in Sidon, Tyre, the valley of the Orontes, and again on the banks of the Euphrates to the north of Babylon in Mesopotamia. Mayak, that is the land that first crossed from the bottom of the deep, was the name of the empire whose sovereigns bore the title of Khan, which is the serpent, spelled today Khan, K-H-A-N. Okay, so spelled originally C-A-N, then today spelled K-H-A-N in Asiatic countries. The title given by the Mayas, okay? Khan, K-H-A-N, like Farrakhan, okay? Khan is an ancient title in the Americas. Okay, Aborigines. Those of y'all that come on my page, okay? Y'all need to learn the real titles, the real ancient titles and the real ancient customs, not the modern day. Anyway, that's another subject for another time. Okay? The title given by the Mayans to their rulers was derived from the contour of the empire, that of a serpent with inflated breasts, which in their books and their sculptures they represented sometimes with sometimes I got to read this over because I'm saying it wrong. The title given by the Mayas to their rulers was derived from the contour of the empire, that of a serpent with inflated breasts, which in their books and with their sculptures they represented sometimes with, sometimes without wings, as the Egyptians did the uraeus, symbol of their country. Alien says, it was the custom of the Egyptian kings to wear asps of different colors in their crowns, this reptile being emblematic of the invincible power of royalty. So these Mayan colonists took civilization from America to the rest of the world, even India. Okay, all of you Afrocentrics, all right, like Asar Man, okay, who keeps trolling some of my videos with that Afrocentric nonsense. Okay, we're gonna shut you down in a minute. Okay, so it says these Mayan colonists took civilization from America to the rest of the world, even India. Even Buddha's mother was named Maya. Below, all right, so let me just give me 1 second here. So just want to point something out right quick. So I can knock out 2 things at one time, okay? Because we're going to debunk some stuff. So I saw, man, see what's happening is YouTube is messing with my channel somehow, because these people leave comments in my comment section, and certain people, when I try to reply to their comments, YouTube won't post my reply. Okay, so, and I tried, like, I know this is cannot be accident, because it happens quite often. See what I'm saying? So since I can't do it that way, I'm going to reply this way. Okay, so here it is right here. So Asar Man says, you have no Asar Man TV. He says, you have no understanding of genetics. My genetics carry the same markers as the Tekar tribe in Africa and many others in Cameroon. Because of that fact, science says that it is highly likely that my ancestors are from these places. Until you can show me some evidence of your family coming from somewhere else other than Africa, I'll go with what science does say. Just because genealogical records or some piece of paper don't say that I was stolen from Africa does not mean that it never happened. A genealogical record can be wrong, which is true. I've seen this in my own family and others too, which is true. I've seen it too. So I will give you that. There is a full history of the transatlantic slave trade that you are ignoring. BS. Why do you ignore these facts and never show evidence to disprove them? Where is some evidence, any evidence. We have documented voyages that proves the slave trade happened. What do you have other than your beliefs to say that it didn't? Many people have proven that their ancestors were some of these enslaved Africans just like I have. Why do you ignore these facts while just accusing me of believing in Santa? I have no beliefs, bruh. My parents didn't lie to me about Jesus or Santa. I've never been a religious believer in Santa or Jesus, and today I have to say God too. I go by knowledge. Okay, what is the theory you propose? You keep saying the out of Africa theory is wrong. Tell me what you believe happened. You have put forth no hypothesis, and I'm wondering why. I have stated facts and provided evidence to support almost everything I've said. What is your story, bro? Tell me that. Okay. Now, this guy, see, there's several flaws in his statement. Okay. Yes, there can be. Genealogy does have its limitations. Yes, it does. Okay. And that's why, I always say you come from more than one angle, okay? And that's why there are those of us who do both the genealogy and the DNA, okay? You just have genealogy. You just have DNA, which is not good enough, brother man, or saw man, okay? If you just, see, first of all, I just shut you up right here, okay, with the fact that the Mayans were all over the world, bring civilization, okay, and then later on, I'm going to show you the genetic evidence to shut you down too, okay. Just because you get a DNA test that says you were from Africa, that does not mean that you are from Africa. Show me some genealogy. If you can't show me any genealogy, some type of okay, if you came from, your descendants came from, your ancestors came from Africa, somebody in your family should have some trace of that culture, some trace of some type of oral history saying, your people were from the Kente tribe, or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Or not the Kente tribe. I'm just being silly like that, But they should be able to say, oh, we were from Nigeria, or we were from Ghana, we're a Khan, or we're from Cameroon, or you know what I'm saying? You should have somebody in your family who could verify that. Okay, and as far as the slave trade, brother, the slave trade, I'm sorry to bust your bubble, but the slave trade did not happen like they said it was, because for the most part, the slave trade was intercontinental throughout the Americas, okay? And the slave trade, which did happen, yes it did. I have some records to verify that. Okay, but those who did come over on the slave trade, guess what? Those ships, I have the names of the ships and everything. Okay, they didn't have any millions of Africans coming over. Those ships had like a dozen passengers, 15 passengers, 10 passengers, 20 passengers, or 20 so-called slaves. Okay, and stuff like that. I have the names of the ships and I have the numbers. Okay, and in another video, I will bring that out and I will shut you down with those statistics, names, and everything. Okay, but that's another subject for another time. But I'm just addressing your nonsense right now. Okay. Since you say I don't reply, which I have been replying to you, brother, and I seriously doubt that you have been missing my rebuttals to your foolishness. Okay? The thing is that you don't want to accept the documentation that I have been providing that has been shutting and debunking your nonsense. Okay? So now we're going to look at some things now and we're going to shut you up. All right? So now below, okay, this is coming from my Olmec Renaissance, okay? Below is a picture of Mayan glyphs found on a temple wall in Egypt. See if I can make it bigger. Look at it and weep. See here. Okay, making it bigger. Make it a little tiny bit smaller. So for clarity's sake. All right. These are Mayan glyphs found on the temple walls in Egypt, which we call Kemet. Okay? It says here, figure 36, Saqqara. Ceiling glyphs of Chapel of Maya. These geometric symbols may be part of an ancient Mayan. Oh! Oh! Okay? And what about that American cocaine that they found in the mummies? Okay? Body bag. All right? So, let's continue on. Moors, so-called black people, have always been a seafaring people. We have been all over the planet engaging in trade and bringing civilization. No matter where you go among Aboriginal people, you will find the word Moor spelled in various ways. One of my mentors said that anytime you see the letter M, it's a reference to Moors. I never thought to ask him. Oh, okay. And if you want the reference to where you can find this glyph, it's in the book Land of Osiris by Stephen S. Miller. Okay? And he's the one that discovered the glyph. All right? See, I don't just talk. And he's right there on the scene. All right? So let me go back. Okay? I never thought to ask him why. But one day, Spirit revealed to me, and this is true, Spirit revealed to me that the letter M is symbolic of the waves of the ocean. And now, so we're going even beyond etymology and breaking it down to what the letters mean. I got curious and I researched what M symbolized, and it was described thusly. 4,000 years ago, Egyptians drew a vertical wavy line with 5 peaks to denote water. Okay, so here's the waves, and you can see looks like an M. Okay, let me make that a little bigger in case y'all can't see it. Okay. Okay. Egyptians drew a vertical wavy line with 5 peaks to denote water. The Semites reduced the number of waves to 3 in 1800 BC. The peaks became zigzags, and the structure was made horizontal, our M in sound appearance. This makes sense because Moors have an affinity with water. In Hinduism, the meaning of Maya is described thusly. In an ordinary sense, the word Maya means trickery, fraud, or deceit. Magic, jugglery, or witchcraft are different forms of illusion that distract and deceive the senses. The senses have the limited ability to perceive and discern truth. Although we take them for granted, that's a typo there, from granted. Although we take them for granted and rely more upon appearances of things rather than the truth underlying them. In the spiritual parlance, Maya means unreality, distinct from the reality represented by God or Brahman. God, in his eternal and absolute aspect, is pure consciousness, and his creation is a mere formation within that consciousness. It exists so long as there is an experiencer distinct from the experience. Etymologically speaking, Maya is that which arises from Prakriti, nature, or Pradhana, primal energy. Ma means the source, the cause, and Ya means that which proceeds, walks, goes, or spreads out. Thus, literally, Maya means that which issues forth, expands, or arises from the source, Ma, the universal mother. Okay? Maya is also described in the Hindu scriptures as the play, Lila, of God, enacted through his creative and dynamic energy or force, Shakti. Okay? It is the web of deception weaved by the universal spider, Brahman, to develop the worlds in delusion, Moha. Okay? Now, here's another book. Okay? So, our friend Carlton Walker, okay, and again, I know that I said, in one of the last presentations that Carl Walker and I were supposed to bury the hatchet. Okay, that was his suggestion. Okay, due to all of the stuff that's going on, against our people, the atrocities that's going on today, this, that, and the other, which is fine. However, looking through a lot of my videos, I discovered afterwards that he had left a whole bunch of comments, a whole bunch of negative comments that I had never seen before. Okay, so I had to reply to him and to my viewers, of course, to the nonsense that he had left in the comment section, because all of it was pure nonsense and it was false and it was lies. Okay, so I mean, no disrespect, but you can't just leave a whole bunch of slander unchallenged, okay, especially when it's pure nonsense. All right, so let's see here. So he says in one of the comments, he says, definition of Moor, an officer in the Isle of Man who summons the courts for several sheddings. The office is similar to the English bailiff of 100. Then he asks, what is Mara? Oh, brother, I'm sorry that you asked that. I am so sorry that you asked that. All right, so first of all, let's deal with the definition of Moor. Okay, we already shut that down in the in the last video. So Carlton, if you haven't seen the last presentation, then I shut all of that down. Okay, first of all, I have to teach you, the new generation, y'all don't know how to read a dictionary. All right, when I was going to school, there was no such thing as going online and finding the definition of a word. Okay, we would have to get a physical book, a big giant book, a dictionary, a textbook. You open up the book and you copy the word, the definition, okay, and all of its definitions, okay, what type of a word it is, is it a noun? Is it an adjective? Is it a verb? And you had to copy, unless the teacher specified that they just want like the noun definition or the verb definition. Unless they specified, you had to copy all of those different definitions. The verb, the noun, the adjective, all of that. Okay? So you millennials, y'all don't know, it's not your fault. I fault the miseducational food system. They didn't teach y'all how to use a real dictionary. Okay, so because Carlton Walker, because he's only 35 years old, he didn't go to school when we went to school. Okay, back in the days, all right, when we had to learn how to define words. So I have to show you how you define words, brother. And all of the other millennials, who are just used to looking up things on a Google search. So what you have to do, when you have a word, you have to look up the whole definition. You don't pick and choose one definition and say, hey, yeah, here it is. It says this. You see what I'm saying? Words have more than one meaning. And again, no disrespect to the millennials, to the 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds, and this, that, and the other, all of you young folk. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. But I just know that you guys were not introduced to doing research the way that those from my generation learned how to research. Okay, so this is one definition of more, brother. Okay, and that's not all of what more means. I'm sorry to bust your bubble. Okay, go back to the previous video, previous presentation, and you'll see what more means. All right. So Mara, I'm sorry you asked that. Okay. So now, again, we're going back to my Olmec Renaissance. Okay, so Pate Diane is a university professor in the USA and West Africa. He is a specialist in African languages and cultures, and he has studied the pre-Columbian Americas. Okay, and this brother here is a linguist. Okay, and I thank my good brother Toriano Obashango Ill. He gave me this reference here. All right, he is a specialist in African languages and cultures and has studied the pre-Columbian Americas. His studies has led him to the conclusion that for millennia, Africans have colonized America next to Oceanic and Eurasian people. So this is me here. This is me putting my 2 cents in. Though I disagree with his migration pattern regarding the origin of the Maya people, he points out some enlightening information with regards to the terms Maya and Mara. M-A-R-A. The people called they called America Tirana. Xavier Según In an article entitled Tirana, Black America says, Pate Diane derives the point. American black natives called themselves Mara or Maroonists and not blacks. This is their name, Mara or Maya, which named the Mayan people. This is their name, Marana or Morone. Uh-oh. Maroon? Marone? Uh-oh. Which is the origin of the word maroons or nigger maroons. M-A-R-O-O-N-S. Maroons. Maroons? Okay. Maya? Ooh. I reference Diane's book to point out the linguistic connections he makes with the terms Mara and Maya. And it is true that Africans have traveled back and forth to the Americas, setting up colonies and trade. However, this is long after Americans traveled to and colonized Africa. Many people are familiar with the trade winds, currents that act as a conveyor belt allowing any boat or object to cross the Atlantic almost without effort, such as the Malian Moors and other Africans prior who came to the Americas before Columbus. However, most people are unaware of the fact that these trade winds also work in the opposite direction. In the book, The American Discovery of Europe by Jack Forbes, who was an American Indian activist and professor emeritus of Native American Studies at the University of California, Davis, documents how the American Indians not only discovered Europe before Columbus came to the Americas, but also discovering Africa. Man, I'm sorry, but you are debunked. He also explained how they were the first to successfully cross the Atlantic. On page 33, Forbes says, Jean Marin, aka Fremenville, a French authority on the sea, tells us that valuable hardwood from the rivers of Mexico was also carried by this stream to be washed ashore on the coasts of Ireland and Wales. This was an extremely important source of rare tropical woods for the people of that region. Marion, a student of navigational history, also states that the first successful of the crossing of the Atlantic could only come from the American side because the crossing is much less difficult in that direction. Remember I was telling you about that earlier in this particular presentation today? A French writer said, justly, in all probability, that if America had been the old world, its inhabitants would have discovered Europe long before we did, in fact, discover America. Of course, this may indeed be what happened, that Americans reached Europe long before any Europeans reached America. Whoa. Sorry, man. So now, what does that say for your so-called DNA? Okay? Because if we are getting DNA tests that you so put your whole life on without doing any genealogy, of course, which is ridiculous. Then who's to say that what they call what they call African DNA is not in fact American DNA. Okay? Because I posted it up on Facebook. I was the first one to post this up on Facebook. years ago that, and I told you this before, man, you acted like you didn't hear it, but they found a mosquito preserved in amber 15 million years ago in the Americas. Okay? So if you're basing the DNA results on resistance to America, and when you read the old documents, you'll find out that malaria was here in the Americas when the colonists came here. Okay? Then it shouldn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that we built up a resistance to malaria right here in the Americas. Okay? So we got a lot of things to play with right here in terms of, just taking DNA on its face value. Okay? man. And again, until we start building our own laboratories, you can't take what they say on face value. Until we start building our own laboratories, doing our own DNA tests, you can't go by what they say on face value. It has to be interpreted from another lens. Okay? Taking all of these factors into consideration. Taking migration patterns into consideration. man, I told you that in the comment section. Okay? Because I asked you before that when you're dealing with population genetics, and when you took your anthropology classes, your genetics classes, that I asked you, what do they base their theories on? Okay? You didn't want to answer. You kept buck dancing around the question. Okay? So I'll answer it for you. It's all centered around Darwinism. Okay? And Darwinism has been debunked. Okay? Because when they talk about migration patterns, they're talking about migration out of Africa. Okay? And I told you that the out of Africa theory has long been debunked. Long been debunked. And you just falling for the okie doke. So don't come to me with that nonsense. You and your Darwinism. It's Caucasoid conspiracy. Theories. It's a theory. It's not a fact. Darwinism is a theory, not a fact. And I already left all of the references for you to look up that disprove your Darwinism. But because you don't want to accept it, you choose to look over it. Okay? So all of you Afrocentrics out there, I'm sorry, but you have been debunked. You just got to look at it for what it is. Okay? There's more evidence of an into Africa theory surfacing nowadays than an out of Africa theory. That's the model that they're starting to look at now. Okay? But anyway, let's get back into it. So, see where we were. Oh, I'm fired up today. I'm fired up today. Y'all been talking that nonsense, and you're going to get that work today. Seeing where we left off here. Marion tells us also that one can sail in a straight line from Boston via Newfoundland to Ireland and Cornwall with almost the certainty of fair winds. The other direction requires twice the distance, thrice the time, and 4 times the sweat. David McRitchie, in his book Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1, pages 13 to 14, says, there is a theory that a copper-colored race, closely akin to some branches of American Indians, once inhabited Europe, or rather the southern parts of Europe and North Africa. Oh! 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 Let me repeat that again. David McRitchie, in his book, Ancient and Modern Britons, Volumes 1, pages 13 to 14, says, there is a theory that a copper-colored race, closely akin to some branches of American Indians, once inhabited Europe, or rather, the southern parts of Europe and North Africa. Ooh, body bag! Body bag! Body bag! I'm sorry, Afrocentrics. It's a wrap. It's a wrap. In support of the hypothesis of kinship between the red races of Europe and America, Generelli adduces A, the existence of pyramids in Egypt, America, and Etruria. B, of labyrinths in Egypt, America, and Etruria. C, of the titled children of the sun, born both by the Incas and the Pharaohs. D, of mummies in Egypt and America, and images of mummies in Etruria. E, of hieroglyphic languages in Egypt and America. F, of languages having a similar structure in America, Iberia, and Etruria. Humboldt thought there were affinities between the Basque and Etruscan. G, of the Nile in Egypt and a Nile region in Guatemala, from the Cordillera of Sconusco on the Pacific, to the Pacific. H, of canopies and sacrificial vases in Egypt, Mexico, Yucatan, and Peru with names similar to the deities they represent. I, and of the root atl, which in its original signification he asserts belong not to the European but to the American languages. Generelli further supports his theory, but the assertion that animals of American origin unknown to Africa are to be found among the Egyptian hieroglyphics and in the paintings or sculptures on the vases and monuments of Etruria. He also points to evidence of the existence in Italy of races which are neither Aryan nor Semitic under the various names of Aborigines, Siculi, Liguri, Umri, etc. He also suggests that Phoenicians were of this copper-colored hue. It is perhaps scarcely correct to describe this as a third division of dark-skinned people, for Signor Gunarelli's red is not very different from Professor Huxley's chocolate brown. The colors ascribed by each to the ancient Egyptians. Later, McRitchie goes on to say, As with the Iberians, according to M.D. Arbois de Jubainville, this red race of the Italian antiquary is assumed to have come into Europe out of the sunken island of Atlantis, which our grandfathers spoke of as the fabled Atlantis, but which the voyage of the Challenger and the study of geology have both proved to be no fable. Below is a drawing of wigwams of the natives of the island of Jura in 1772. On page 276 of Ancient and Modern Britain, it reads, "Now, this is distinctly an encampment of gypsies or of Lapps, or Northern Asiatics, or North Americans." Look at this here. Look at it! Okay? Look familiar? Look familiar? It is the turf-covered gam or kata of the Lapps, and its architecture is visibly the same as that of a Red Indian camp. Oh, goodness. Oh, the evidence is just overwhelming. Although I am not aware that the material turf is employed by any American tribe. In the footnote, McRitchie says, compare English cot, coat, and cottage. Also, Gaelic cot, cotta, a cottage, cotta, a coat, a petticoat. The radical meaning of this word would seem to be something that encloses, in its Gaelic sense, of a covering for the body. It is found among the Moors of North America. Oh! The who of America? The Aborigines of North America? The Aborigines of North America? No! The Moors of North America. My goodness. As, for example, in the Machakota, or principal female garment, referred to by Longfellow in a note to Hiawatha, which word seems as if it had once been used as petticoat, the principal garment, and the undergarment. There are other so-called Indian words which are still to be found in English dictionaries and where the resemblance increases to absolute identity. Okay, so in other words, this right here, oh man, this right here, okay, so, you're looking at something that exists on both sides of the Atlantic. We took it over there. We took it over there. We took it over there. And he confirms that the people called Indians were Moors. What is worthy of noting is that the so-called Indians are referred to as the Moors of North America. On page 46, McRitchie says, "Now when Claudian wrote, and for a long time after Maurus, M-A-U-R-U-S, signified a great deal more than a native of Mauritania. Or it may be more correct to say that Mauritania implied as much, though in a different quarter, as Scythia did. Any Latin dictionary, any old one at least, will tell you that Maurus is a Moor. a blackamoor or a tawny Moor. And Shakespeare uses the word Moor as a synonym for Negro, as that last word bears nowadays a somewhat restricted meaning. It may be better to take the old-fashioned blackamoor as the nearest English rendering of Morris, signifying thereby any black or brown-skinned man. In the footnote, MacRitchie says the usage outlasted Shakespeare by at least 2 generations. In a brief narrative of the encounters between early colonists of New England and the native Indians, I find it stated that these unfortunate gentlemen were interrupted by 700 Moors, with whom they fought for the space of 4 hours, till not only they two, but Captain Shart and 51 Christians more lay dead upon that place. And again at Woodstock, 10 miles from Sinnock, on the 16th May, was a little skirmish betwixt the Moors and Christians, wherein there was of the later 3 slain and 2 wounded, and only 2 Indians killed. Okay, so you see there he uses the term Indian and Moor interchangeably. MacRitchie also mentions that the Indians of the New England area of the where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Okay, new area. He mentions that the Indians of the New England area on pages 374 to 75. He says the Englishmen who had colonized the western shores of the Atlantic not more than a generation or 2 before Gross spoke of the Indians there as being black as gypsies. In 1676, the native races of New England were spoken of indifferentially as Indians and Moors. And our British Indians are also remembered as Moors. Ooh. On page 360, MacRitchie says, indeed, a reference in the prologue to one of Dryden's own plays seems to say that the lowest classes frequenting the London theaters of his time consisted largely of black people. And it is not at all unlikely that Black Will and his ruffianly bravos belonged by the ties of blood, as well as by a common character, to the caste that became known to a later generation as the Mohawks. Because the Mohawks were black-skinned men. The Spectator tells us this: my friend, Sir Roger de Coverley, asked me in the next place if there would not be of some danger in coming home late from a proposed visit to the theater, in case the Mohawks should be abroad. On the same page, MacRitchie continues, as we have been lately informed that during the early part of the 14th century, a period that antedates even Black Will by 350 years, the city, London, was preambulated by bands of marauders, the ancestors of the Mohawks of Queen Anne's days. Woo! It is strange how this history has been forgotten by today's reservation Indians of the New England area. Oh my God, they outright deny Moorish ancestry, but there is too much evidence to deny the Moor Indian connection. First of all, the word Indian was substituted for Moorish in 1621 in the book Standard Headdress, an historical essay on a relic of ancient Mexico by Zelia Natal, page 6, a description of King Montezuma and his Moorish hat documents this historical truth thusly. A Moorish hat of beautiful, long, lustrous green and gold-hued feathers, bedecked above with white, red, and blue feathers and gold rosettes and ornaments. In front of the forehead, it has a peak of pure gold. The term Moorish, as here applied, can scarcely be regarded as a deceptive inasmuch as Montezuma, king of Temistotan and Mexico, is subsequently designated as a Moorish king in this same inventory in 1596. It is interesting to note that the gradual changes that occur in the wording of the subsequent periodical official registrations of this Moorish hat. In 1613, its description was faithfully reproduced. In 1621, the word Indian was substituted for Moorish. With this single alteration, the original text was again transcribed in 1730. Okay, and I give you the reference book called Standard or Headdress, an historical essay on a relic of ancient Mexico by Natal Zelia, 1858 to 1933, page 6. There is also on the East Coast the Lenape, Delaware, Nanticoke nations who were referred to as Moors. In an essay from the book Delaware's Forgotten Folk by C.A. Westlager entitled Nanticoke and Moor Folk Medicine, it states, the Delawares, Shawnee, Seneca, Mohican, and other Eastern Indians claim that their forebears originally received their knowledge of Matapasikan from a tribe called the Nanticoke. Locally, these people are called Moors. Okay, Carlton Walker, there were no Moors, no tribes called Moors. Sorry, you are debunked. Some Lenape were at odds with the designation of Moor. This is similar to our people today who reject the term Moor. And this is the conflict between those who choose to honor their forebears and those who choose to be in dishonor. The fact of the matter is, the Delaware's driver's licenses used to include an M for their race, which stood for Moor. According to the 2016 Delaware Code, Title 29, State Government, Chapter 1, Jurisdiction and Sovereignty, Statutory, Section 106, Lenape Indian Tribe of Delaware, Recognition. Okay, this is Section 4. The tribe was formerly known as the Moors, and for many decades of the 20th century, state documents such as driver's licenses designated the tribe's race with an M. Okay, now this is coming from an official document. 5. The Delaware School Code of 1921 provided that the State Board of Education could establish a school for the children of the people called Moors. As a result, 2 schools were built, one in the town of Cheswold and one at Fork Branch on Denny's Road in Kent County. 6. There has been unofficial statewide acceptance and recognition of the tribe for at least 125 years through a formal process of reviewing applicable state laws, historical and anthropological references, and previous actions of the General Assembly and state agencies. The Department of the State concluded by 2009 that this state has historically acknowledged the tribe. The Smithsonian Institute issued an annual report in 1948 that the tribe was referred to as the Moors of Kent County, Delaware, and identified as a surviving Indian group of the eastern United States. Okay? So someone can try to explain away why they were called Moors. However, excuses do not trump what is documented as law and what is recorded in the Smithsonian archives. There is another Indian group referred to as the Milleniums. Okay, now you heard this first from the Feerce Truth-Seeker. Watch this. They are from the eastern United States, notably in the Appalachian Mountains, near the point where Tennessee, Virginia, and North Carolina North Carolina territories. These people are said to be of Moorish ancestry. Now check this out. You're going to hear this first from the Feerce Truth-Seeker. So you hear a lot of people talking about the sundry free Moors. Okay? You hear it. You hear people, talk about, oh, yeah, those Moors and this, that, and the other. Those were dirty Moors and they were Africans and, blah, 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 blah. Okay? All right. So here, let's read on. Here's one thing they don't tell you about those sundry free Moors. Many Moors make reference to the Sundry Free Moors Act of 1790. However, they never elaborate on the fact that the act was passed as the result of the Milleniums fighting not to be lumped into the same status as Negroes. So you hear a lot of people talk about the Sundry Free Moors, but nobody talks about who those Sundry Free Moors were. They were that Indian tribe called the Milleniums. An extract from the state records of South Carolina, Journals of the House of Representatives, 1789-90 reads, South Carolina had significant ethnic diversity. During colonial times, it was home to free Moors and Turks. While fighting in defense of their country, the Moors were captured with their wives by a king of Africa. They were claimed by a Captain Clark, who was to deliver them to an ambassador of Morocco, then living in England, to return them to their own country. Instead, he brought them to America, where he sold them into slavery. They petitioned the South Carolina legislature, and the petition stated that as freeborn subjects of a prince now in alliance with these United States, that they may not be considered as subject to a law of this state, now in force, called the Negro Law. They were freed by the South Carolina legislature. Report that they have considered the same and are of opinion that no law of the state can, in its construction or operation, apply to them, and that persons who are subjects of the Emperor of Morocco, being free in this state, are not triable by the law for the better ordering and governing of Negroes and other slaves. Resolved that this House do agree with the report They are free persons of color. They were free persons of color. Okay? And let's see where you find that. 42. That reference, http://internationalindigenoussociety.com/look at Moorish Muslims, their architecture, and influences in Indian country / Okay? Let me just click on that to double check. Yep. Okay. Moving on. And we're going to have to cut it. I thought we'd be able to get to everything, but unfortunately, we have run out of time. But I'll leave you with this. What is even more compelling is the words of a Dakota Indian named Meredith Musa Quinn. Quinn said that his middle name, Musa, was given to him by his ancestors in honor of their Moorish heritage. Quinn also states that the word Moor is not African in origin. According to Quinn, the Europeans stole the term Moor from the Indians, and that the Moors were a tribe and empire. Ooh, wait a minute. A tribe and description? A tribe and description? A tribe and description? No! A tribe and empire. Empire. From America. On page 102 of the Dakota Time Walkers, Quinn says, it would stand to reason that he stole the word Moor from the Indians so as to hide the true word for a culture, language, and people, and an empire. If he did, it would have to be for a damn good reason. Quinn shows a drawing of the Moorish flag still preserved in the British Museum today, and the Moorish outposts of the Pueblos in New Mexico. Okay, Carlton Walker? What is also worthy of noting, and here's the flag here, what is also worth of noting regarding the Pueblos is that the Anasazi, which is a Moorish word, their cliff dwellings are identical to those found in Mali, West Africa, among the Dogon people. See the next page. Okay? So, you see here, you have, these are Asazi, I'm sorry, these are Anasazi cliff dwellings. Okay? And you find them in the Pueblos. Okay? You find them in New Mexico and Colorado. Okay, if you look here, and all of this again is coming from my Olmec Renaissance, or everything that I was reading today comes from the Olmec Renaissance. Okay, my one of my periodicals, one of the issues of the this is an old issue, 2018 one, I believe. So here we have the Anasazi cliff dwellings. Okay, and you look right here, you see the same structure, same layout in Mali, West Africa. Okay, so Carlton Walker, I'm sorry, but and it shouldn't be an issue of sorry, because if you are sincere about learning the history and culture and being who you say you are, it shouldn't be about ego. It should be about learning the truth. And with a lot of people, you know, it's just a lot of intellectual masturbation going on. Okay, you want to get off on your own knowledge, even though you don't have any. Okay, so it should be about you learning the culture, learning the stories, learning the true history. Okay, and not just going out there getting off on your own ego. Okay, so see, Anasazi cliff dwelling, and you look here, it's identical to Mali, West Africa. Okay, because Carlton Walker said that there were no Moors, there were no Moorish mound builders. Okay, so I'm showing you the fact that you don't know what you're talking about, and that there were Moorish mound builders. Okay, and I'm going to show you throughout this whole presentation the mound building civilization that the Moors created in the Western Hemisphere. Okay, which extended across the Atlantic. Okay, same. Okay, when you look at this map, I showed you here, showed you last time, showed you Quetzalcoatl, who is Amaru. I showed you all of these different place names named Amaru. Okay. I also showed you other place names as well. Okay. This right here is an Arawak ship. Okay. So the Arawaks were navigators as well. Okay. So, you know, we traveled going to the east, going to Europe. Okay. As Jack Forbes had told you. Okay. The late Jack Forbes. Okay. He was a Pamunkey. He was from the Pamunkey tribe. Okay. And he was Professor Emeritus of Native American Studies. Okay. PhD. All right. So, let's go back. Also, you find the solar cross or circle cross symbols found among the American Indian mound builders and on American Indian regalia. Okay, so let's first look at, this is the Moorish flag. Okay, says the treaty. I'm sorry, it says the protective armies of the Pueblo according to the treaties found in an article in Article 8 of the Indian Manifesto, March 11th, 1972. Okay, and this flag, I'm sorry, these are the flags. You see the flags. And you see the outpost. This is the outpost. Okay, so number one, Moorish army post protecting the Pueblo. Two, right here, Moorish flag, Moorish country flag. Okay, it looks different than the Moorish flag that the Moorish Science Temple uses, but it is a Moorish flag that was here. Okay, so these where you see one, it's the Moorish outposts. One, two, Moorish flag, one Moorish outpost, and this is there's no debating with this. This is coming from Meredith Musa Quinn, the late Meredith Musa Quinn, and he was what today they would call a full-blood American Indian. Okay, he was a Dakota Indian. All right. So it should be quite clear now that the term Moor is very ancient and did not originate with the Greeks. And I have also established enough evidence of the Moors in ancient America. This information is only an excerpt from my book, Birthrights, The Stolen Legacy of the Black Indians, The Facts and the Fiction, which goes into much greater detail. So if you think this is rocking, you got to read the book. So here we also see the Dogon solar cross, circle cross symbol right here. Okay. And you also see this when you go to powwows, you see the quote unquote Native Americans wearing this on their regalia. Okay. And here's the symbol right here. You can see it again. All right. So on that note, we got to get out of here. I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to go more in depth, but that's enough to, let me see, type of time. I'm going to go a little, let me see. 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 See how much time are we in? Oh man. You mean to tell me this thing wasn't recording? All right, I had 2 recordings going. I hope that this recorded, because I'm seeing a mess up, a big time mess up here. This one wasn't recording, so I hope we have audio. I hope we have at least audio. Okay, so let's look at some other stuff here. I saw a man. The Many Mysteries of Maya. On the Trail of Tutankhamun's Valued Courtier, Part 1. All right. So here you see Maya of the Egyptians. Okay. Let's go there to this article. Okay. All right. Let's read. The Amana period brought to fore many interesting personages, especially from the ruling disposition, while Eminence, Greece Aye, and the Generalissimo Horemheb became pharaohs after the death of Tutankhamun, the last scion of the Sun family. It was Maya, a nobleman, who played a pivotal role during the twilight years of the 18th dynasty by honoring crown and country through the vital posts he held. He held an old hand. He knew well how to play his cards to remain favor in the new kingdom royal court. Okay? So it says here, if you look, no cost was spared in fashioning the sumptuous resting place for Maya and his wife, Merit. The couple adores Osiris and Nephthys in this stunning gold-painted relief in their Memphite tomb. Okay? So here you have Maya. Okay? You have the personage Maya in Egypt or Kemet. Okay? So, I mean, it's not much arguing you can do with that. We showed you the Mayan glyphs, right? And here you have, you know, Maya, okay, and his wife right on the tomb. Okay? Not only that, but you got, you know, many Africans who have the name Maya. Okay? So, you know, there's not much proving you got to do with that. You know, I'm not going to read this whole thing. You know, if you want to read it for yourself, you know, here you go, right here. Just look it up. Okay? Ancient Origins. Okay? And you got the title right here. All right? So, I think that's going to be about it. We're going to pick up I don't know. Should I mean, got to leave you with something else. Let me see. Let's see. Because I know a saw man's not going to be content with that. So here we go. Let me give you some more. I got this stuff for days, y'all. Let's say I've been doing this for almost 30 years. And again, we're just talking about with the native stuff. We're not even talking about the Afrocentric stuff. So I can come at you Afrocentrics too because I know your school of thought. I've already come through that school of thought. Okay? So this is from Forbidden Archaeology. Michael Cremo. Okay? And I gave you this before. Don't act like you didn't get it before, Saw man. You just don't want to accept it. That's your problem, not mine. You choose to believe your slave masters. I don't. Okay? I don't believe in slave ideology. You want to be a slave, not me. Sorry. I'm an Aborigine. Anyway, it says here on page 18, when I returned to Los Angeles, I began to receive press reports about the Bolivian footprints in English, Spanish, and Italian. On May 29, 2008, the Bolivian Agency of Information, ABI, published a report translated into English that gave some important details about the discovery. These details were announced by researchers at a press conference held at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in La Paz, Bolivia. Thus, for I have learned the following. The footprints were originally discovered by villagers near Lake Titicaca. They called them footprints of the Incas. A woman named Fanny Pimentel, described as a consultancy worker, took photographs of the prints and gave them to researchers. Researcher Jorge Miranda said one of the footprints is 29.5 centimeters, 11.6 inches, long, and have belonged to a human being 1.7 meters, 5.6 feet tall, weighing about 70 kilograms, 154 pounds. According to the researchers, the footprints were found in a Miocene formation about 10 to 15 million years old. The Miocene extends from about 5 million to 20 million years ago. If the initial reports hold up, the Bolivian footprints are a significant addition to our understanding of the antiquity of the modern human species. According to most scientists today, humans like us came into existence about 150,000 years ago in Africa, having evolved from more primitive ape-like ancestors. The Bolivian evidence joins a huge body of contrary evidence showing that humans like us have in fact existed for longer periods of time. We have to keep in mind also that most scientists now believe that humans like us did not leave Africa until about 60,000 years ago, and that modern humans first entered the Americas about 15,000 years ago. So the evidence from Bolivia not only contradicts mainstream scientific ideas about the origin of human species, but also contradicts current mainstream ideas about the peopling of the Americas. Okay, I'm not going to read this whole thing now. I just wanted to leave y'all with something juicy, a juicy cliffhanger. But also, man, I'm sorry, my brother, but your Afrocentric nonsense has been debunked. And on that note, I'm going to say, all the dog on